A squirrel climbs up and down a tree, gathering leaves from the ground to fill its nest in the hollow of a dead tree. The wind is breezy and it's cold outside, hidden from the sun. One leaf it retrieves doesn't fit, so it is dropped from the treetop to float on the wind and land atop of a nearby storage shed. An instant later, a small black and white bird lands beside the drop leaf, retrieves it to its mouth, and flies to a nest in another tree. The leaf has been found useful there and stays. As winter's cooling intensifies, the leaf and others in the nest provide great insulation, protecting the bird family for weeks. At last, spring has arrived. The sun is present in the sky longer now. It's much warmer there, but also here in the nest, cradling a baker's dozen eggs. Soon, new life will manifest its energy to break through its protective shell and test its strength in its new open-air environment. Still warm and soft, the cradle is supporting it. Soon it will fly. Soon it will try. Breaking through its shell, it sees the light for the first time. Its brothers and sisters around it still gathering the energy needed to break free of their confines. Orville stumbles across some nearby shells, climbing to the highest part of the nest, flaps his wings, and leaps but does not fly. Nearly falling on her face under the weight of her own body, on her feet again, she takes a look around. Other birds her size flying by make it look so easy. A flat flap for a rise, a wide spread for a glide. What of the takeoff? They jump off a ledge without a care, trust their wings. Orville can't seem to find the edge of the nest. She is observing and learning now, and she is observing and learning now, and she will share with her siblings upon their arrival. A large shadow cools the nest suddenly, and she looks up to a colossal creature high in the sky with wings open wide. There is no flapping for eyes on its flight. It simply glides round and round, floating on the air like a duck on a pond. How? It doesn't think, it just does. A beautiful cardinal lands on a blackberry bush nearby. Distracted from her thoughts of higher flight, she is now in tune with the contrasting red on brown of this brightly colored one much closer to the ground. This one is in pursuit of a suitor, one to create a family with. A family, like my brothers, my sisters, you and I. Hours pass as she rests and the sun sets. The sky is starry now, and she sees the big world for the first time. Suddenly she hears a crackling sound beside her. A brother is hatching. Jesus, he says, questioning. No, she says, they nailed him to a tree. We fly from that tree. Oh, the brother replies. What is flying? He asks as another shell begins to open, and another, and then another. Now 3 sisters and 1 brother, all looking to the first to teach them while the brother learns their behavior better than they know themselves. Watch, the eldest speaks. Watch what, one replies. Everything, she says. They admire life in the cool dark air around them, seeing stationary lights in places and streaking lines of lights in sporadic sequences. A meteor shower, the youngest one shares. It's when space rock in the vacuum of space enters the Earth's atmosphere, burning and creating light from the friction. Quizzically silent, the others gaze with narrowed focus. Yeah, she says proudly. Where did you learn all of this? The middle one inquires. A messenger from beyond, I suppose. I just know, that's how I know. It's like love, brother inserts. Wisdom is ancient just as love, much older than our hours-old bodies. We are all imparted with pieces of knowledge that doesn't belong to our current bodies at all. We must share it. It is our duty. They all fall silent as the meteor shower intensifies in the sky. Peck, peck, crack, crack. As a new sun rises, other eggs began to open to emerging faces. We must have fallen asleep during the light show. It was so tranquil. Yes, says Eleanor. My thoughts on life before birth echoed through my mind in color as my eyes closed. It's so colorful here, now with them open as well. She shrugged her winged shoulders. I guess it's all the same. 3 of the newly emerged hatchlings have stood up, wandered out of the nest, and up the tree limb that the nest is sitting on. Much higher than the others now, they look very small to Orville, Eleanor, and the others. The silence of the meteor shower resumes as 3 white underbellies leap from the tree branch and disappear out of sight. No one breathes for a moment, unsure of what's next. It doesn't matter, Orville says. Of course it does, argues Eleanor. Where have they gone? Did they fly? What have we learned from them? The others gather closely to Eleanor now, with a closed posture towards Orville. When it is our time, we will know, Orville states strongly. He stretches his wings horizontal, squats to his heels, and leaps into the air with a strong flat pattern, pushing air into his chest, and lands back on the soft leafy bedding underneath him. The family releases a flood of smiles and laughter at his reaction to his failed attempt, warming up the place. Orville smiles, turns his back to them, and leaps from the edge of the nest. Eleanor quickly navigates her way through the eggshells to the spot from which he leapt and leans forward, looking down. A subtle breeze blows, nudging her chest back and wings up in front of the others who follow her actions. They felt the wind again. They know where to begin. Moments pass in this trance, with all eyes on the sky. With the wind moves in a thick blanket of white clouds. Eleanor and family sway with the treetops they see in unison, fixated on the sounds, the scent, the movement about them. Everything is flowing at a natural pace. And while still, present, observing it all, we are a part of it all and what created us. The familiar sound of struggling life vibrates inside their ears, shifting the attention to who steps out of the curtain. A paleness as white as the cloud chirps, then stands to her feet, introducing herself. Hi, my name is Snow. Hi, Snow, the family echoes. Snow looks around at the egg litter all around her and begins to clean. I don't want anyone getting hurt slipping on these, so I'll just remove them for all of us and our safety. No, please leave them, chirps Susie. I'm enjoying sliding on them. Watch. Susie spreads her wings, encouraging space around her as she backs up through the crowd and around her to the wall of the nest. Jim, count to 3. Jim clears his throat and begins to count. 1, 2, 3. Susie propels herself forward on thin legs, hopping together quickly towards a long line of fluid-covered eggshells, takes a powerful high leap, leans back, pushing her feet forward, and slides, pushing up a wave of shells like a wave of snow under stopping skis. Applause and cheering erupt from the gallery with the warmth of the fire. Smiling wide, Susie bows as a few others line up to test their balance behind her. Snow begins to recompile the scattered shells into a runway for the others and approaches Eleanor, who is standing facing the sky near the edge of the nest. What is next, wise sister? Snow ponders verbally. Eleanor, head up and chest back, takes a deep breath inward and softly replies, rain. The clouds become thicker as the day progresses into night. The hue of brilliant white descends around them in sequence with the setting sun. Many have taken rest in turn with playtime. Snow shared a game she calls bouncing off the walls that was thoroughly enjoyed by all, including Eleanor, who has otherwise remained ever vigilant in navigating a process to flight. As she returns her gaze to the insulating fog beyond the wall, two of her siblings sprint into the nest wall on both sides of her, nearly cackling with joy on their rebound. She shares another deep laugh, falling to her knees momentarily before rising to the occasion of near non-existent visibility. She becomes aware of her heightened sense of sound and smell. "Balance," she murmurs quietly. She closes her eyes and the nest is silent, no movement in the bedding beneath her. The fog transfers the sound of gentle drops of moisture into the leaves on the forest floor below. Hours pass with ears and nose open. Behind closed eyes, she marvels at a show of light similar to the meteor shower. These lights appear to have no recurring pattern of behavior and streak across in a random order. She patiently waits for a repeating path, but after all this time has witnessed none. Suddenly, a wider light, one that fills the background of her eyelids, appears and vanishes as quickly as it appeared. She opens her eyes and sees two red lights below, moving away with an increasing roar of sound. As it fades into the black foggy abyss outside the nest, she hears hoo 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 hoo. She recognized this sound as the voice of a bird with great vision and surrenders her eyes to the night. With eyes closed and another chanting, hoo 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 hoo, she visualizes the owl's silent flight, descending onto a snake at the place the red lights had been a moment ago. With talons stretched open, Greg quickly grasped the animal, gathering heat from the warm pavement. Greg ascends out of sight with the rope-like creature, and the silence of the night remains. What was that? Eleanor's inner dialogue begins. Two life forms working together. To accomplish what? For who? The realization weighs heavily on her lungs, slowing her breathing. Collapsing into light, she sleeps tonight. Feelings of joy similar to that occurring shortly after consuming dark chocolate flow as a raging river through the mind of the nest. The orchestra of songbirds singing lovely tunes of love and light surround the small, learning family, and they open their eyes to a sunlit, foggy day. "We're all connected," shouts Bill with excitement. I was asleep in the darkness, and as I woke to the harmonic sounds of love and light around me, I too became awake and full of love. He takes Susie's wingtips, and they began to dance as the nest forms the dance circle. In the midst of the energy, a shell begins to open. Jane rises in a bountiful stretch from a fetal position and quickly matches the energy and rhythm. As one begins to rest, another follows until the family is leveled in lotus, forming a circle of squatting birds around the three remaining unhatched eggs. A few moments of silent breathing pass, and Jane speaks. "Cheerful greetings, family. My name is Jane." "Hi, Jane," the family smiles. "I have been imparted with the message of coexistence. My partner and I lived our lives peacefully, symbiotically, and productively as humans, along with gorillas in my last life. We built a home. We shared knowledge and resources. Similar to fungi and plants, we encouraged a thinking life, not our own. We encouraged a thriving life, not our own. Another sun has set, pulling behind it the half-lit moon and wind from the ocean. Eleanor is rocking quietly in the breeze. Where did the owl take that snake? What were those red lights? She finds no answer and begins to float. The air is heavy with moisture now, which has moistened her wings. She stretches them outward in the breeze and imagines the silence of the owl's flight last night. Suddenly shaken underfoot, she opens her eyes and finds herself on the pavement near the spot the red lights, the snake, the owl were. Alone, on foot, out of the nest with no memory of how she got there, she closes her eyes again. The owl. The owl vanishes from her sight and she closes her eyelids. 1, 2, 3. She hops, spread wings, a flap, and she opens her eyes back in the nest. Everyone's sleeping as if she never left. Have I left? Did anyone see? Was I dreaming? The wind picks up speed and steadily soaking rain is here. Her head buries itself inside her sheltering wings as she shoves up closely with the family, who are already huddled together. The breath of the group synchronizes, sending a rhythmic pulse out into the air while the rain pulse vibrates with a growing soothing sound. That was no dream. I flew. With wet wings I flew. With my eyes closed I flew. The family's breath and heart sounds shift rhythm ever so subtly and in effect of these thoughts. Dreamscaping, Eleanor whispers. Wisdom our own. Focus returns to floating on a gentle river as the rain drums the sound. Becoming the water, she is filled with the memories of its journey from a cloud into snow onto a mountain, carving a creek onto a river, creating the ocean in no blink of what eye. This consciousness, this spiritual life knows everything of all. The collective is we. The knowledge is our. There is no you. There is no me. A tree branch falls onto the nest. Trust your wings, not the branch, she learns. The nest, now eyes wide from the impact, gather round with hunkered heads under umbrella wings. The pitter-patter of the rain imagined to be but of a drum set of a greater kind of drummer. Unfathomed with the thought of the unseeable, conceivable dimension about them, they peer down from the edge of the high nest. The pressure of the shower pushing animals and plants alike into submission below. However, the ground in between is glowing golden. The pressure of the shower pushing animals and plants alike into submission below. However, the ground in between glowing golden with umbrella-shaped protrusions from the ground. On one of the larger ones sits a toad, gazing high into the sky as the rain bounces on his face. The pressure has generated a rising effect for these organisms. Without opening his mouth, Charm, the toad, speaks through the space into the nest. These golden creatures are fruiting in the rain. They will release their spores on the ground in a reproductive nature similar to the eggs that the birds have made. Mushrooms, they are called. A fungus we are. We create a web of underground networks, sharing nutrients from the soil, rain, with the life growing from it. We decompose lifeless material and reabsorb those nutrients to be shared across the forest amongst all living things. We are the unity, the glue, the enlightened. The forest floor below begins to grow brighter and brighter with more and more rain. A jaguar approaches from the darkness. Behind them, a jaguar approaches from the darkness behind them, bows its head to eat one of the golden toadstools, and moments later is laid out with paws on the air on her back. Swimming in a pool of air, it seems, she has learned to fly as a tiny dragonfly winged creature. She has learned to fly as a tiny dragonfly winged creature with a human body hovers above her head. It appears she is protecting her with a light source of her own. From behind a tree trunk steps out an elf with pointed ears and a glittering face, kneels beside the large cat, and remains another light caster. Robin, the jaguar, laughs, reflecting light from her teeth. Along with the cat's humored smile, the nestlings redirect their vision to match her vibration. The rain has stopped, the sky is clear, and a pine needle falling could be heard. It is so quiet. Everyone eyes wide on a white light in the sky, larger, much larger than the meteorites and stars in the distance. This seems to be much closer to them. The white light begins to darken in a sickle shape into a shade of red. It's happening slowly, and there are no sounds. Is it real? Bill looks at Susie. Susie briefly lowers her gaze to match his connecting with hers in perfect sequence. Bill looks at Susie. Susie briefly lowers her gaze to match his, connecting with hers in perfect sequence. It's real. As they return to upstretched eyes. Some time passes as the temperature gradually drops in the absence of the moon's reflected light before reaching totality and complete red and cold. Movement has been noticeable as the sickle shape grew into a semicircle and slowly growing. Now, however, it's as if all space, all sound, all life are synchronized. However briefly to this moment right here and right now, in the absence of light and fear, their eyes close, only to discover a brightly glowing white light in the center of a dimension. In the absence of light and fear, their eyes close only to discover a brightly glowing white light in the center of a dimmer white light, with many brightly glowing orbs of light in every direction they look. The light showed behind closed eyelids from before, but with the stark white contrast. The warmth has returned in an instant. The awareness of self transforms into the awareness of light, joy, of timelessness. There seems to be only happiness here, no suffering and no darkness, no cold. For a time unknown, they simply stay. Out of sequence, a voice beacons, "Are you all right?" "Yes," comes the reply, "just watching the eclipse and the squirrels." Eyes open and understand the voice is coming from the two red lights nearby. As they depart, the moon is white again and the sun rises. The nest is gone. The writer continues on.